Audio made possible by www.jackettome.com. Warning. The following has suggestive content that is not suitable for some listeners. Audio Fanfiction Productions presents Wide Awake. Fanfiction written by Youngscotta003. Fanfiction inspired by the Twilight Saga written by Stephanie Meyer. Chapter 15. Sourly Cinnamon. Bella's point of view. Edward never mentioned the toothbrush Thursday. When I climbed up to his room, he was waiting there for me, like always. Hungry, bored, and sketching. I was on his couch watching him eat, when I began struggling to imagine Edward at the party tomorrow. In my head I was putting together the perfect hangover remedy. But I didn't want to pry, so when he was done we just talked about a new album he got. Anything but the party. I almost felt resentful that I couldn't be downstairs with him enjoying it. But I pushed that bitterness aside, because once the night was over, I would be the one he'd come to. When Edward closed his sketchbook at the end of the night, he looked really very tired, so I made my way to the bathroom, hoping to find my toothbrush still nestled in beside his. I'm not exactly sure what I was expecting him to do with it, but I was happy when it was still there, just sitting next to his looking happy as a clam. I smiled at it before I plucked it up and finished my nightly routine. We crawled into bed like always, turning off the light, and scooping each other up. I didn't get past the first verse of the song, before Edward was asleep. Friday started badly. When the alarm clock went off and Edward pulled away, I rolled out of bed, and stumbled to the couch, like always. But I stubbed my toe on the bed frame. I hopped the rest of the way to the sofa to get my bag, muttering low profanities, that made Edward drowsily snicker from the bed. I glowered at him. It was like the omen for my entire day. I slipped off the lattice 4 steps too early, and landed on my back. It didn't hurt me physically, though my pride surely took a hit. I burned my wrist making bacon for Esme after I got home. Stupid splattering grease. I felt so betrayed. On the way out the door to school with Alice, I hit my hip on the doorknob. Hard. I glowered at it sourly and got into the yellow Porsche, just knowing this was going to be one of those days. I couldn't enjoy Elise's enthusiasm over the whole Jasper situation on the way to school. And that just made me even more sour. I failed my trigonometry quiz rather thoroughly. It was my very first fail, and I shot daggers at the mocking red F all first period. It was pouring all day, making my boots slippery, and my footing horrible. I nearly tripped twice in second period, which is saying a lot, because I only stood up once. When I passed Edward out in the quad, he was entirely drenched, slippery black leather jacket and hair that I was dying to smooth back out of his eyes. And looking anywhere but at me. I slopped into lunch with my hoodie weighing 3 times what it was meant to and dripping like a wet cat over to Elise's table. I flopped in my seat with a disgusting splat. I could almost hear her quirk an eyebrow at me, but I didn't look up, just got out my book, and opened it. My hair dripping little wet circles into the white pages. I really just wanted this day to be over. To be in Edward's bed warm and dry and smelling him. But when I walked into biology, I found the universe really did hate me, because Edward was already in his lab stool, and I slipped right in front of him. 1 second I was slopping towards the lab table, the next I was landing face first on the cold floor with another disgusting splat. I didn't move at first. I just closed my eyes and lay there in my own self-induced puddle, sparing myself a few seconds to loathe my existence. Everyone else in the room was chuckling and snickering, but I didn't care. I slowly dragged myself off the cold now wet floor, and swatted the wet tendrils from my face furiously. I chanced to peek at Edward and he was glaring at everyone else in the room with his fists clenched tight at his sides. I felt my face soften when I realized he was mad that they were laughing at me. It made the rest of the class bearable. But then there was Jim. Jim was awful. I got hit with 5 different basketballs. I don't even know how, or where they came from, and I didn't even flinch away. I just took it, thinking eventually the universe would see I've taken as much as I could possibly handle, and leave me be. When I was finally home, I slopped all the way to Elisa's bedroom, glowering at the floor the entire way, and watched her model 12 different outfits for the party tonight. "Bella," she screeched, making me cringe. "Are you even looking?" I lifted my head enough to see her black skirt and halter top that was likely to make her freeze all night, and nodded. She huffed, and walked back into her closet to change again. When she asked me again, I suggested she wear the green dress from the last party. She left me alone after that. I was afraid to make dinner. Terrified. I stood in the kitchen, glancing at the stovetop warily for 20 minutes. I really didn't need any more burns. I made sandwiches, while Alice bounced around the house in another skimpy outfit. I didn't have it in me to mention the green. She was on her own. No way was I spreading my cursed luck to her for the day. When the time came to make cookies, I let out a hysterical laugh at the empty mixing bowl. Wondering what kind of vile recipe could possibly sum this particular brand of crappy day up. I decided it involved cinnamon, and a sickening amount of sugar, so I went to work. Beating all the ingredients a little harder than was really necessary. When they were done, I made 5 Ziploc bags. I added Jasper in the mix, because cookies were Elisa's secret weapon, and I wanted him to like me. He was Edward's best friend, and now he knew about me. I labeled the cookies sourly cinnamon. When 10 finally came, Alice and I made our way over to the Cullens. I brought my old book bag, and filled it with my pajamas and food for Edward. But I told Alice I just wanted to do homework while I was there. That earned me a very cold glare. She didn't like the idea of me doing schoolwork in place of partying. I nearly snorted at her. Alice was gone, and in the house before I even made it to the walkway. I glared at the cold wet soggy ground, and slopped further towards the booming house. I rolled my eyes at the loud rap music they were playing. Because the Forks suburbs were so gangsta, there were people everywhere. More people than last time. I don't wear it found everybody, but there were clearly more people attending than their usual Forks crowd. I kept my head down when I finally cleared the threshold. There was a small group of people in the foyer making their way outside, laughing boisterously as I passed. I hugged the walls, figuring an emotional breakdown would be just the kind of thing to top this day off. I made my way to the staircase, not even looking up. I bobbed and weaved and hugged the wall of the living room with a grimace.